Okay, we're on Thursday, Brighton, talking to Dixon Jones and Genie Jones.
Yep. Hi.
Hi.
the father-daughter combi. We could not let it slip by when the moment you said this morning that your daughter was speaking. We thought this could be a
she's actually spoken here 3 times now, but it's really made my life a lot easier. Because honestly, all of that worrying about what you're going to say, it was all you.
Do you know what's so funny though is that when I started this job, he was like, just call me Dixon, nobody's going to know that I'm your dad. And when we go into a space, just don't even say anything. And then every time we walk in anyway, he's like, this is my daughter. It's like, okay,
the proud dad talking.
Yeah, I can't hide it, can I? So there we go, never mind.
There you go.
Fantastic.
There you go.
So what was the topic of the talk?
So it was how to get actionable data out of AI, because we are running WaiKay, what AI knows about you, and it's all based on entity SEO because we were working with, we built InLinks beforehand, which is an entity SEO tool, and just trying to translate sort of how entities can be like found in AI and how you kind of have to put in the work and do a structured analysis because it's so random and there's so many variables, and I think people are expecting to get, a search volume for your prompts or how many times have we been mentioned this month, and it's just unrealistic data, and people are going into these big tools and they're coming away with nothing to really work with data-wise. So I was trying to create a framework for extracting entities, checking facts, and then how to evaluate those entities in terms of how strongly associated you are to them in the LLMs.
I think, the presentation came across really well because, prompt tracking, which is kind of where all the tools seem to have gone. It seems like all the tools decided, we need rank checking for AI. And then they just didn't think it through very well, So, and Genie's sort of process put a sort of a plan in, and prompt tracking's there for sure. At some point you want to find out whether AI pops up your brand when you ask for the best hotel in Brighton. Of course, you want that at some point, but you don't start there. You start by knowing whether the AI knows that you've got a hotel in Brighton. If it doesn't know that, then the rest is going to be wrong, isn't it? So literally finding out what AI knows about you in relation to your brand for a start, and then in relation to topics and stuff, and it came across very straightforward.
It's the other way around versus the prompt tracking tools.
Yeah, prompt tracking tools are starting with, our customers are searching for this. Well, they might be, but you know what? The way I use AI, what I mostly do is summarize this content over here that was probably produced by some other AI. That's what I'm doing. Or somebody's emailing me, what hotels should I stay at in Brighton? And I'm saying, can't be asked to do that. My prompt will be reply to this email, and off it goes. So, or I'll be writing some content about hotels in Brighton, and it'll write some content, and hopefully a brand will be in that content, but it won't be the user that's generating that. It's the person that's writing the blog post to their audience, and then the message is going to go through. So the ways in which people are using AI are not, or LLMs in particular, are not, I'm going to go up and search something. It's I'm going to get up and get the LLM to do something. It's very different.
So as a brand, how would you start by this journey then? Instead of starting from the prompts, you start to need to figure out, is my entity known in the world? How would a process like this start?
It's more to do with first understanding your brand's entities away from AI, because it's a fundamental step, even for SEO, that a lot of people are missing. Getting a knowledge graph, understanding what you cover, how well you cover it, what are you missing out on, and then going to LLMs and prompting, what do you know about my brand? But importantly, turning live search off, like looking inwardly at the data, trying to get as into what are the consistencies over time as possible, instead of analyzing that layer on top, which is the live search, which is just really unpredictable. So you're looking at the overlap of the entities that you have and the entities that an LLM has at its foundational, training data level. That's the basis of, I've got these gaps, I've got these ideas that are working really well, ideas that LLMs are just making up because we don't cover it enough clearly, and they're just trying to do this. An interesting thing I saw earlier though was someone posted, I can't remember who, so sorry about not giving it the right name. It's like it matters a lot on if you're checking on a paid account or a non-paid account.
Free account, yeah.
And like but there's not a right answer to that. It's like if your customer base is mainly people that will be on a free account, then you should be prompting that free stuff, and that data is still really usable even though it's random. And the paid one, although it will be probably a bit more specific, that data isn't any less useful than the random citations that you can follow. So I've been kind of thinking about that too.
It's a little bit the same thing as the CEO of an old age pensioner home thinking I need to be found in ChatGPT. Because that's the new rage here. And I think his customer audience is not really searching on ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then their sons and daughters might. How early can I put my dad in a home? ChatGPT help me.
And then the podcast went really dark.
Will take some time, Dick.
I'm saying nothing. No, I'm saying right now.
But then coming back to you, what you said, we need, as a brand, then you figure out, there's a potential gap or there's a misunderstanding of my entity with what is known in the graph. How would you tackle as a brand then to fill that gap?
That's the SEO part, isn't it? That's the part that we need great structure, internal linking, schema. You need to go back to your data set and realize that, LLMs aren't ranking you. They're figuring out how closely associated you are with the topics it needs to fulfill the user request. Because it wants to provide the best user experience, or at least pretend like it is, and it's going to take what you've asked, put it into a set of topics that need to be answered to answer that fully, and then look at the relevant brands and see how closely they've matched every single one of these, how much authority they have on that, and then you'll get that attribution. You might not get a link, but you'll get hopefully a mention. And that's how you start to look at it. You don't go in thinking, I need to be number one, because you'll just lose, because it doesn't exist.
Is this a long-term game or a short-term game?
Long term.
Long term.
Well, no, not long. How long's a piece of string?
Well, it's there's two aspects of it, because there's the commercial prompt tracking, which has that live layer, which is still important to keep an eye on, that can fluctuate, and you can implement structure and schema and stuff, and you can see that improve, I'd say, within 6 weeks, as much as it would improve, on SEO, on search engines. But then really the long-term goal is of doing that is for when the next training data comes in, you've structured that data in a way that makes sense, that the data, the training data is going to include you. So it's two aspects. One's a bit fickle and one's more long term.
That's why the training data is cut off, right? Some months ago.
Yeah, well, but it updates. Different ones are different ones seem to be augmenting at different rates. But I think what's also a big part, and it was a big part of Genie's talk. Our CTO Fred Laurent did a LinkedIn post the other day, and he kind of put a sort of situation, because we've got if you go down there's prompt tracking tools. I was talking to Multi from the CEO of Peak.
You will be here this afternoon.
Oh, okay. I was having a chat with him downstairs, and I said, there's a lot of them this day. He said, I counted 16. So 16 prompt tracking tools out there, But the interesting thing is they're coming out of the woodwork really, quickly. We're Peak and I have been out a year or so. Fred put this post out, and he said the problem is that if you just build a tool, this is what's going to happen. So you can have let's use it for tools, for vibe tracking, for vibe tools and stuff like that. So you've got your best CRM tool, and you've got, it'll say Salesforce is good for enterprise businesses that do this, and HubSpot is good for this kind of thing if you want this kind of thing, and you could also try this vibe tool. So even if they cite you, they don't know the context in which they're citing you, or they'll say, if you want one built by yourself, then have that one.
Yeah, we can do that. They'll probably start promoting themselves.
Well, yesterday, Data for SEO announced their own API endpoint for this as well, so everybody can build their own LLM tracking tool.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. But if there's no nuance, then the LLMs want to tell you what's different about the offering. So if they're going to put 10 on a list, they're going to say what's different about them, aren't they? They're going to point out the differences if they can, because otherwise it could say this is exactly the same as this, exactly the same.
Only
That's
pricing.
That doesn't tell the user anything. So they want the differences. So that topical presence then becomes a really interesting piece of it. When it describes you in a few sentences, are those sentences? Is that sentence really what's going to sell you to your customer? You can't sell to everything to everyone. So you need to pick and choose and differentiate, and that's how you get up against the really big brands. How we're competing with SEMrush, big brand, is by being very narrowly focused on this entity.
On this part.
And then also, if you look at the entity building yourself, how would you say would the ideal split be? Because it used to be that you build your own house, your own foundation, your own website, and that was enough. Of course, the entity needs to know from a big graph. It needs to know from multiple spots on the internet, also non-owned properties.
Yeah.
How would you see the split happening in between this a bit?
So there's, I think, again, comes back to this two different parts of tracking your brand on AI. The first one, if you're looking inwardly and you're looking at the training data, you can still ask for it to provide citations and sources. Those citations and sources will be pretty random and weird and hallucinated a lot of the time, because you're asking a data set to just basically guess where it's got that information from. But it reveals so much about where it got trained on, which kind of third-party brands and areas it seems to cite. Even if they're hallucinated, it still vaguely says, I probably got this from YouTube, actually. So you can start around there for a brand narrative. For the commercial side of like, how do we get cited more quickly on this with the live layer? That is making sure that you're looking at the citations as a whole, not just the ones that are citing your brand. Looking at every single brand that gets mentioned. Don't limit that data at the beginning. Don't predetermine 10 competitors and only track within them. You have to let the LLM do that work. Pull your competitor list, look at every citation for every single brand, and then you'll start to get some data on, when it's looking for my niche, it's actually looking at this review that somebody posted about 3 weeks ago, and I'm not even on that.
You want to see the full query fan out.
You want to see all of it, because that's where it's getting the information, and it's probably getting the information from that post and not even attributing that content to the brands itself. So it would be easy for you to either reach out to that post, get on there, or create content around that, or just it's.
There was one of the things last year when I was talking to one of the guys from PromptWatch as well, talking about the hallucination. When looking into the log files, they clearly saw that the LLMs were hallucinating certain types of content on their website. And then it was like, if it's hallucinating that we have this type of content, maybe we should create this.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's just that it's saying that's where it probably got it from. That reveals a lot about the structure it expects from your website. So go ahead with it if it makes sense. What's really interesting is if it's a topic that you have covered in depth on your site and it's still not picking that up, and it's creating a hallucination, I would go back to that single topic. Either look at if you need to rebrand it to changing it to be the same as the Wikipedia page for the similar thing, and making
or maybe
sure
at
that
least
the
put a
language-
redirect from that.
Well,
yeah.
or maybe you've got some technical issues with the crawl of the page.
Internal links.
You suddenly put a JavaScript to all that page.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to there aren't really trust signals like Google had, for instance, right? Wikipedia.
I don't know. Trust signals.
Maybe reviews and Trustpilot, those are trust
Yes,
signals
I
because they are
think so.
really.
I think they're working on it.
Yeah, they have to.
I think the thing is, because those listicles, there's too many listicles responses that you've never of companies you never heard.
Problem.
So I'm very hopeful that they'll start using. I've got a small interest in a company called Majestic that's got some very good data by page, and I'm really hoping that suddenly one day they go around and just
Trust flow for LLMs.
Yeah.
They do need to work on that stuff because they didn't really have that idea of authority, and they're just having to get it, on the fly, which is a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. I think you can make the combination. If you have Trustpilot reviews mentioning your brand and the cluster you're working in, that's a signal.
Yeah.
I tell you what I am seeing is that a lot of these meta studies that are sort of showing, Reddit is a big citation basis of that. Yeah. When I look at it project by project, it's not really that obvious. Overall, maybe they're the biggest referrer.
Depends on niche.
But if you divide that by 10 billion sites, and basically there's a couple of Reddit ones in each one. But within that site, in our industry, search engine journal is going to be there a lot more.
Do you know what I think it is in that sense? Is it's like Reddit is the part that's giving information gain, because everything else that it learns about a brand is pretty much similar across the web. It's just reiterating what that brand does and who it does. Whereas Reddit is known for people giving insights that you're not really allowed to say as the brand. So it's a bit of information
user-generated
gain.
content market.
Yeah, and I think it is good because also it's got the R / and then whatever that topic is, so it's already got a unique topic that it's easy to read. So in terms of machine readability, it's pretty up there in terms of how easy that is to get. So
There's the problem with a lot of review sites, of course, is, look at myself, the only time you leave a review if you're unhappy. or if there was some excellent service.
You're a Dutchman, we're English.
Or if you feel like sympathy, like it's a small family shop or something like this, you feel sympathy, that give them a 5-star rating.
Should we talk about family? Are you guys the first SEO family
Not
business?
at all.
No?
Bill Hunt and Motoko Hunt used to run a company called iCrossing, and then they were consultants in the States. Their son is in the business. I know Sante Achilles is an Italian SEO. His son is in the business. I'm glad I've got a daughter in the business.
That's what I was going to say. I'm not sure. Father-daughter.
Last year at the Brighton SEO, I got the kids' book from Ahrefs. And I'm reading it to my kids sometimes to try to nudge them into the direction.
Well, I tell you, it won't work that way. She hated everything I did until all of a sudden she went and did a degree that was really complimentary.
Yeah, well, also the space updated, really, because I had no interest in what you were doing
6 years, 7 years ago.
Yeah, because it was all data.
Well, it was probably 15 years ago, because I started in 1999. She was born in 2000. So
what a time it was in 1999 to go SEO, right? You could do so many crazy things.
It was easier.
But then I went to university to study language, culture, and communications. I did all of my study on like how your brain connects language, how it builds it, how it kind of things, and then Google updated to be all about authority and building associations. It moved away from data and keywords, and Dad was like, we need somebody to do this. We need somebody to make these connections. And I was like, well, actually, this is exactly what I was just learning about, but on a human level. So it was quite exciting to bring that into to contextualize it into tech. I did try not to be an SEO at first. I got a job as a marketing executive somewhere, and it was, oh my gosh, I don't think I have ever made such a mistake in terms of what I thought
Career
I was
choices.
capable of. It was very hard.
Well, I think for a lot of years, people have also been saying you should be optimizing for humans and not for robots.
I still think that's true.
In this case, your study is spot on then.
I don't know. Actually, maybe now I'm updating that in terms of like maybe optimizing for robots is probably a best bet long term now because it's all going to be robots that answer the questions. So
That's true.
and they're only learning.
Yeah, that's the next phase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So making sure your machine readable is like the number one thing to do now. I got told off by Fred for posting content that didn't have a hierarchical structure of H tags because it's just going to be unreadable for an LLM and it's basically useless.
Yeah.
So there's these things.
Always say thank you to the robots.
Oh.
All right, I think we are
Yeah.
with one last question that always shows up in the podcast. But we have two people to answer it. So what is your biggest SEO fuck up? You work in SEO for like 37 years?
Well, I'm not going to say employing my daughter.
27 years, sorry.
That was one of my biggest successes, I think. And one of my most surprising successes is I didn't know that we were going to work together quite so effectively as we have. And that's
really nice. Yeah.
I mean, to be, I know I'm reversing the question, but one of the things that Genie did at the start, though, was lay down a few rules. And the rules were, we can talk about work between 9 and 5.
Yeah.
And then we don't talk about work outside 9 and 5. And then she probably went to New Zealand for 2 years on a completely different time scale. I can never talk to her about it.
That might be my biggest SEO fuck up actually, is going to New Zealand for 2 years. They don't really love SEO over there, and I thought I'd bring it over and make it
working abroad or
working abroad. Yeah. Well, I went part time really, and I made sure that was
another
in
time
touch
zone.
with it, but it was oh my god, yeah. In terms of building a small team, a big fuck up you can make is going about 18 hours away.
It's 12 hours difference. It's as bad as you can go. So there you go.
But honestly, it just shows that you can kind of work anywhere now, and it did work in the end. And so
You got some great learnings from it.
yeah.
My biggest screw up, I think, was slagging off somebody who was slagging off me. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because he was a better slagger than I was. But anyway, that was years ago, but I had sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
All right, yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thanks, guys.
This is the first family interview we did here.
Thank you.
There you go.
It's super cool that
More
you
to come.
offered to come over.
Cheers.